This video is going to go through calculations for an elastic collision. An elastic collision is one where the two objects bounce off each other after collision. A 45 kilogram cart traveling at 2.15 meters per second to the right on a frictionless surface collides with a 62.5 kilogram cart traveling 1.5 meters per second to the left. After the collision, the heavier cart is traveling 1 1/10 meters per second to the right. What is the velocity of the lighter cart? The very first thing we want to do with any collision problem is draw a rough sketch of what is going on. First, we are going to define left as negative and right as positive. It will be very important in our calculations that we follow this convention. We have the 45 kilogram cart traveling at 3.25 meters per second to the right, so that velocity is positive. Then we have the 62.5 kilogram cart traveling at 1.5 meters per second to the left, so this velocity is negative. After the collision, the two carts bounce off each other since this is an elastic collision, and they travel in opposite directions. We want to find the velocity of the 45 kilogram cart if the 62.5 kilogram cart is traveling to the right at a positive 1.1 meters per second. Looking at the picture, the final velocity of the lighter cart should be negative since it should be traveling to the left. Now we can write down all of the data we were given in a table, making sure we include the correct sign on the velocity. M1 is 45 kilograms, V1 is 2.15 meters per second, and we are trying to find V1 prime, which is the velocity of cart 1 after the collision. We also know M2 is 62.5 kilograms, V2 is negative 1.5 meters per second, and V2 prime, or the velocity of cart 2 after the collision, is 1.1 meters per second. The basic equation we can use to solve for V1 prime is our basic collision equation, where M1 V1 plus M2 V2 equals M1 V1 prime plus M2 V2 prime. We can solve this basic equation for V1 prime by subtracting M2 V2 prime from both sides and then dividing everything by M1. This gives us that V1 prime is equal to M1 V1 plus M2 V2 minus M2 V2 prime divided by M1. Now we can substitute in everything we know. Again, make sure you watch the sign on the velocity. 45 kilograms multiplied by 2.15 meters per second plus 62.5 kilograms multiplied by negative 1.5 meters per second, since this cart was traveling left, minus 62.5 kilograms multiplied by 1.1 meters per second divided by 45 kilograms. After we perform all of our multiplication, we have 96.8 kilogram meters per second minus 93.8 kilogram meters per second minus 68.8 kilogram meters per second divided by 45 kilograms. Performing the addition and subtraction next, we have negative 65.8 kilogram meters per second divided by 45 kilograms. After we divide, we see that the lighter cart V1 is traveling negative 1.46 meters per second, or 1.46 meters per second to the left after the collision. This concludes our elastic collision example.